Welcome to Season 5 of SheVentures. I am your host, Doria Lavanino. SheVentures is a podcast about women and their work and life pivots. I believe in the power of storytelling. I also believe that if you change one woman's life, you start to change a family or a community. Our mission is to elevate the diverse stories of everyday women in their work. One promise, no mansplaining ever. Sit back, listen, and hit subscribe. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us at SheVenturesPodcast.com. She spent nearly 20 years working with corporate leaders as the CEO and founder of Wisdom to Lead, an Israeli-based company which focuses on helping executives reach their full potential by using techniques in the field of mindfulness. Her clients include companies such as Google, WeWork, Teva, and Siemens. Here to speak about her journey, earning her Ph.D. in the unique field of leadership in the 21st century, building her company from scratch, becoming a keynote speaker, and the author of the book, Mindfully Wise Leadership, is Keren Tsuk. Keren, welcome to SheVentures.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
It is really nice to talk to someone about mindfulness, a practice that I really didn't get involved with until I was probably in my 40s, 10 years ago. When I think, though, about starting a company as you did nearly 20 years ago, based on the principles of mindfulness, which, yes, they are thousands of years old, of course, but they weren't exactly mainstream, at least in the US. So it makes me wonder, how did you personally decide to start a company that uses mindfulness as a way to effectively inspire and engage leaders?
Okay, so it was a journey.
Oh, yeah, I bet.
I didn't know it at the beginning of my career that this is what I'll bring to the workplace. Although, I grown up in a home where my mother brought the mindfulness aspect and the spiritual aspect to the house, and my father was a doctor and a organization professional. So I think my leading question was always to blend between the material world and the mindfulness and conscious world. So this is my questions in life, question that leads me in life. So let's begin with it. My career started as a consultant, as an organization consultant, working with leaders, going to organizations, doing diagnosis, showing them how I can help them, working with leaders and managers in their companies. And then I felt the need to conduct a PhD because I felt there's something new I need to bring to the workplace. So my working day, I went to the library for my client. Actually, I was looking for an article, and then I saw it hit me, and I found an article about this mindfulness and leadership, and I understood, actually not together, but I understood that this will be the theme of my PhD. And I conducted a 2 years case study in a high-tech company for my PhD. Actually, I was always interested to combine the theory and the practice, because it's really nice theories and how to act. But once you meet the day to day and you have to deliver a project now or a really stressful situation, it's really nice, the theory, but what's happening in the day to day. So this is what led me to conduct a case study, really to be immersed in a company and see what's happening.
You get the data, right, as well, yeah.
Yeah, data, and talk with people, interview people, and collect, and understand, figure out what's happening there. And what I found in my leading question was what is the role of leaders nowadays in leading financially successful organizations alongside motivating their employees for meaningfulness, intrinsic motivation, in order to help them fulfill themselves, be creative, and for the organization to be innovative. And then what I found that mindfulness is a crucial element that we need to embrace nowadays as leaders, as individuals, to engage the people.
So was it that they gave you that feedback, or was that your interpretation based on the study that you did?
It was a qualitative study, so it was my interpretation. They didn't call it mindfulness. Actually, the CEO created a meditation room in the company, and I'm talking a long time ago, so it's not now that it's common in Salesforce and different companies. So it was something to say, okay, something happening here. I want to understand, to figure out. So the CEO actually brought this perspective to the culture and to his leadership. So I unfolded what does it mean to be a mindful leader? How do you bring mindfulness to the day to day? What are the gaps? How do you hold tensions? And according to my journey, so this is what actually I didn't have a pivot point, but this was an epiphany moment for me to understand that, okay, this is a new leadership that I want to bring to the organizations. And because before I finished my PhD, I felt that I didn't bring my unique voice yet. This was what I was looking for, to bring this different wisdom, different tools to the corporate world.
To your point, I think that most people think of PhDs in organizational psychology as doing a set, I don't know, just set things. And the fact that I love what you say about bringing your voice and your perspective, and that you intuitively knew that there was something missing in what you felt needed to be brought to the workplace. That's incredible and really quite visionary, I think, for the time, and bold, because you also are proposing something that I think a lot of leaders might kind of drag their feet a little bit about, like, I don't know.
You're right. I want to
Yeah.
ponder about it, because actually in the committee of my PhD, the dean of the management school retired from my team, from the committee, because it was really resisted it. He was the expert in leadership, and he retired from my committee. So you understand, I was really bold to bring this team to the university academia,
Right.
long way back. So this was my first bold aspect. And then, I will continue for a minute the journey and will ponder about what you said, because then I continued, and after I finished my PhD, I was invited to teach in Hong Kong. They opened a master degree there called Executive Meaningful Innovative Leadership, and actually opened 30 hours component of mindfulness. And I was invited to teach there. And actually there, all the dots were connected for me. And I understood at this point that I will bring the mindfulness to the corporate world. Because before that, I worked out of mindfulness, but I didn't call it like this. But at this point, all the dots connected, and I understood that I will embrace them in my practice. And I was also in the point that I wanted to scale my business and have a big impact on the companies. And, it's different as a consultant to work with 2, 3, 4 companies, or to create something that is scalable. So at this point, I decided to craft a mindfulness-based leadership course and retreats, a transformative courses and retreats to offer to the corporate world. And I really remember a moment that I did it after my PhD. I created an opening lecture for everybody to come and listen to this. And I remember that I almost fainted because I was so scared. It was the first time I took it out and talked about it and brought it. And, I needed to overcome my fear, because I had a fear there. As you say, to bring something new, I don't know how people would react to it. So you need to walk the talk.
Absolutely. And you did it. And that's what's incredible about it. And I have two questions that are coming to me in parallel. One is, what was the role of mindfulness in your life personally? Maybe let's start there. And then the other question that I have is, how did you scale? How did that come about?
Mm-hmm. So first, the place of mindfulness in my personal life, I'm 20 years in this process. Personally, I'm going to retreats. I'm practicing various kinds of meditations, various kinds of Zen Buddhism, different retreats. So I live it. It's my place that I evolved through. And it started with myself. I felt that I want to better connect to myself and to my complete self, and to feel my different feelings, because at the beginning of the journey, I was kind of disconnected from myself. I was working with my mind and disconnected from my heart, because it was really scary, and then I understood that I want to show up fully and fulfill myself, and to feel this life, even if it's tough, feelings of anxiety, stress, sadness, vulnerability. But I decided that I will go with it, and I want to live fully. So this is actually my practice, connecting better to myself, increasing my presence. I remember that I went to a teacher for 3 years, a mentorship program of a retreat. Twice a year, I went to a 1-week long retreat. And I told them in the beginning, I'm coming to this program in order to increase my presence, because I want to bring this presence to the world, to the corporate world. So, it goes through me. I really believe in walking the talk, do what
Right. It was an intrinsic motivation, kind of as you said right
Yeah.
before, which is so hugely important, I found. In your early days, like when I look at your LinkedIn, I just want to make sure I understand the timeline. So you were working on your PhD and you were teaching part time and you founded your consultancy while you were doing this study. So I was just wondering if you could flesh out how did those things come together? That's a lot to do at once.
I found the balance. I also gave birth to my first kid, my first son. So breastfeeding and doing my PhD, and he was eating during my. So you need to find the balance, And this time I did put more energy on my PhD in order to finish it because I wanted to bring this wisdom to the world. So actually, I took less clients. So it was, it's kind of find the balance each and every moment. What's the right priorities for you in order to blend them and as I said, I was also with my newborn kid, so I needed to find the right balance.
That kind of brings me to my next question. As a woman and as a company founder, have you faced unique challenges in building your business or being recognized for your leadership as a woman?
It's a good question, yes, I think there's stuff that we need to confront that maybe others won't need to confront when we stand up for ourselves and ask for the price that we think we're worth it.
Yes.
So there's times that I ask myself, if I was a man, would they ask about the price? Would they talk about it? So it's, different challenges. And yes, and you need to put boundaries as a woman. You need to know to be respectful for yourself and to ask for respect and not let people behave in an unpleasant way and manner. Because, yes, I think like each and every one of us got some sentences that were redundant, one in the place.
Yeah. Oh, out of absolutely. And I know for myself, many women are socialized to, we're told to be smaller, to take up less room, to not rock the boat. And yet everything that you were doing, while very mindful and peaceful, was visionary for the corporate world. And so I can see how that may have met additional resistance to the one of gender. But to your point, I think women do, almost every woman I've spoken to on my podcast says asking for money and asking for my worth is something that I struggle with and something I personally struggle with. It's a lifelong journey, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think this is part of growing and evolving and understand what we are worth and asking for it. And that's great and okay. I see the transformative process people are going through my courses and retreats, and I know what I'm bringing nowadays. So I'm in a point that I really connected to my worthiness, but it was a long process.
Yes. Like people look at you today and they say, wow, she's got this great company and she's doing these retreats and she has online courses but they don't look at what you were doing 15 years ago and the struggle, the balancing, as you said before, even with having a son and how to take fewer clients to make that work, right?
Mm-hmm. First of all, I have two amazing kids. So I have a boy and a girl. And yes, and I really see it. I see the companies as the reflection of the leaders. So I see as I evolve and increase my presence and learn to set boundaries and to respect myself, this is how it manifests outside with my clients, with my potential clients, with my colleagues, because this is the process. So yes, I think we need to dare to get out of our comfort zone. And it's interesting because you need to invest their energy and to be passionate and to execute things. It's not when you look from the side, you say, wow, it's really nice, really easy. But no, we need to invest and to dare to show up fully and to be in confrontations and to put boundaries. It's not always easy, but this is the process, no?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It 100% is. It reminds me of a term I hear often, and maybe it's a bit overused at this point, but kind of manifesting what you want to have in your life. And you have to take the actions yourself to make it happen, is what I'm hearing you say. What attracted you to mindfulness as a workplace tool? Was it the 2-year study that you did and that was it? And you said, this is the way I'm going to go. And you're, of course, teaching in Hong Kong.
Not only this, as a consultant, as you said at the beginning, I'm 20 years working with leading firms and managers in the corporate world. And I felt something missing. I felt there's a component that is not there yet. In order to engage, I felt that people are not seen as a whole person, as a complete person. They were such as a cog in the machine and not enough place for them to show up fully. I didn't know to say it back then, but something inside of me was calling for something else, to create really a workplace that enables people to show up fully with their vulnerability, with their abilities. As I see the corporate world, it's like a platform for humanity development. So we invest so much of our day-to-day in the workplace. So for me, the workplace is the ability to enable our employees, our colleagues to evolve, to grow, to nourish. So this is actually the new paradigm I bring, and it was missing because when I was working with, I felt that the a little bit of abuse of the employees, of the people, that they are not seen. And I think this is what got me as a consultant to search for the missing part.
So you were working a little bit at a time with different companies at the beginning, and it kind of evolved over time, if I'm hearing you correctly, the mindfulness aspect of your offering. Is that right?
Yes, sure. Because as I said at the beginning, I worked from this place, but I didn't call it mindfulness and I didn't bring this practice and tools. I brought myself with my state of mind, with my paradigm. But when I finished my PhD, I understood, and after Hong Kong, I understood that actually I will need to bring these tools to the corporate world and then to integrate my abilities into, this is actually the present that I bring to the workplace. And my vision is actually to change the business world from the inside out instead of from the outside in, to see how as leaders we can better serve our employees, our customers, the community. And from this, gain, create better products and services for them. And from this, bring our value and increase the ROI. So yes, this was unfolding for me. I didn't know 20 years ago that this was what I'll do in my career,
I love how you so articulately stated your business case, which it's not just about sitting in a room being mindful, although that is important, but it's also the effects, the chain effects that it has all the way to getting a better return on investment because people are happier, they're more productive and more thoughtful about what they're doing. And it just has exponential effects. It kind of reminds me of preventative medicine versus, waiting until someone gets sick and then having to operate on them.
Exactly. You're creating the platform for people to evolve and grow, and then they will want to stay with you. And it's a win-win paradigm, right? Because when I'm happy and fulfilling myself, I'm also bringing my added value to the workplace, and also the organization have the fruits for me. So this is the new paradigm as I see it, and it's important, right?
Absolutely. And you briefly went over it, but I just want to make sure listeners understand. In what ways can individuals and corporations work with Wisdom to Lead? Because I know that you have different offerings.
So actually, in 2 weeks, I'm facilitating a mindfulness-based leadership retreat in Napa Valley in California.
I saw that. I was like, that would be nice.
You can join. And I offer a transformative mindfulness-based leadership courses online and offline in talks in order to expose people to the understanding of the connection between the leadership aspect and the mindfulness. As you said, it's not only sitting and meditating, At the end of the day, what I found the crucial element of being a mindful leader is the ability to hold the tensions between the long term and the short term, between the employee needs and the company needs, and mainly between the being mode and the doing mode, the ability to do, but out of listening, and the ability to pause, listen, reflect, and then act from this being mode. Then we can be in a flow state of mind, right? Investing minimum effort, but gaining maximum results because we really listen to what's needed and reacted from this place.
That is such an underrated skill, listening. I see so often people reacting without even really thinking about what's driving them. And I've even been in that state before. And nothing good ever really comes from that place. And so with that in mind, I wondered if you could give listeners some idea of what they can do in their day-to-day in terms of being mindful in the workplace and in their lives.
So first of all, I invite people to reflect and to see if there are ever automatic behaviors that doesn't serve them anymore. And once you understand it, you feel stuck with stagnation in your day-to-day or in the work environment, pause and reflect upon it and try to figure out what's happening there. Maybe you have a colleague that touches your button every time you see him, and then you your body gets constructed and you can listen to them and you get angry and shout at them. So instead of acting out of your emotion, try to pause and to create this space between the stimulation and the response and ask yourself, okay, next time that I will see this colleague, how can I react toward him? Maybe I will take 5 minutes breath and then continue my conversation. Maybe I will ask him if we can meet in 30 minutes in order not to react upon my anger. Maybe I can speak my anger. So I really invite people to create this space and to choose how they want to act with their emotions or the feelings. Another tool that I can invite people is really have 5 minutes. You can meditate or you can take 5 minutes between meetings. Usually we go back to back meetings and we don't really come present to the meeting. So it's not worth it. So really take 5 minutes off between meetings. You can meditate, you can take a few breaths, you can clear your mind and come fresh to the next meeting. It will be much more productive. And another last tip that I can give people is really go out for 10 minutes to nature, take a walk, clear your mind, be present with the smells, with what you see. Just be present for 10 minutes. Take the deep breath and come back much more energized. So, it's small things that you can do during the day to day and increase your productivity, efficiency, and present in the day to day. So,
Yeah, and happiness,
yeah,
a less anxious, I think, way
for
of
sure.
being. So many US companies, I think many worldwide companies, are dealing with a remote workforce. There's kind of hybrid situations going on. It seems to be evolving. But with that in mind, how can mindfulness be used to increase cohesiveness between teams that are remote?
Mm-hmm. So, I think people that working remotely, they're really missing the connection part, want to be connected and, the human part. So I really invite to open meetings if you can with checkup between 1 and 5. How present are you here with us? And people can speak about their experience. Maybe I can say, I'm really anxious now because I have something I didn't figure out. Only by saying it, I will be more present. Try to, if you have time to create meetings of connections, sharing something personal, bringing a different perspective, really enabling people to connect. There are companies that are having a coffee Zoom, opening a Zoom meeting on 3 o'clock. Whoever wants to jump up can jump on this call and connect with other colleagues because the connection part is really missing. I think it's important, although it's not an instrumental thing that we're going to run to achieve our goals. But once we are connected and feel that we're seen and we can be connected in the human aspect, then we will be much more engaged and productive. So I think it's a crucial element.
I love that also because it applies as much to small businesses as it does to larger ones. It doesn't really cost you anything to have a 3 o'clock Zoom meeting. Or I learned this from one of my Gen Z interns, and she was leading a meeting and she said, we really should have an icebreaker. And I just didn't think about it because I am now 53 and even though I like to think I'm aware, I don't think about being 20 or 21 or 22 and that people sometimes are scared and so they're bringing their scared self into a meeting and having something like an icebreaker where they find out something trivial about you, but it makes you more human and vice versa, right? Those games really are incredible.
It's a nice game that Dr. Carl Ruben was a guest on my podcast. He said, you can start a meeting with, if you had known me, you would have known that. And given 1.5 minutes for each one to show up and share whatever you don't know about him, it's an amazing thing because then you can connect from a deeper place. So, it's all these small games that you can create this bonding and increasing and bringing the full selves to the workplace. So that's a great
I love
practice.
that. I'm going to try that one next
Right.
week. That's
Great.
As women, as we spoke about before, we tend to balance a lot. Can you tell our listeners, is there anything additional that they can be doing every day to ensure that they are taking care of themselves as much as they are being a wife, a mother, a worker, however else they define themselves?
I really love this question because I think it's counterintuitive, but we first of all need to see ourselves, take care for ourselves, be compassionate toward ourselves in order to be like this for others. And we tend to forget ourselves, and that's pity. So I invite people, first of all, to see what fuels them. Like the car that we put gas in the car, and you also need gas. So maybe what fuels me is meeting a friend for a coffee, maybe going jogging, maybe swimming. I don't know. Whatever makes me feel great, I should do it and put it into my calendar and not let it go. Another thing, I think it's really finding the time, even 5 minutes to start with a meditation in the morning or between meetings or after lunch, to take this pause, because this pause can enable us to take deep breath and connect with ourselves and come really fresh to the rest of the day. So this is also a tip that I can give, and being more less judgmental toward ourselves and more loving toward ourselves, because we're human beings and we make mistakes, and that's okay. But this is a much needed practice, right? It's really challenging to be compassionate toward ourselves because we are really judging ourselves all day long.
Yeah, especially if we're high achievers, that it's like we're perfectionists, and if we do something slightly wrong, you're so right that when someone told me this 2 years ago, like, you can forgive yourself, like, and it was for something trivial, but it was mind blowing to me, and I was like, what? Like, and I realized, wow, I'm carrying around so much guilt for things that really I've been socialized to feel guilty for. But I really need to take care of myself, to your point, right? And I think a lot of women feel the same.
Yes, because as mothers, we have a lot of guilt and shame, and it's about time to let it go and to be complete with ourselves. And I think we'll also be an inspiration for our daughters and kids when we're complete with ourselves. And I'm not perfect, that's okay, but I'm doing my best.
Yes.
And once I will accept myself and be good with it, my kids, this is what will resonate for them. So it's why leading by example. So it's so important also to do it beyond ourselves for our kids, to see something different and not judge themselves every day. So it starts within ourselves. And, and mindfulness really helps us to let go of this judgment and to be more accepting. It's a practice. It's not an easy thing to do. It's nice to say, but really challenging.
Yes. You bring me to my next question, which is that in the US, there are a lot of apps. I'm sure they're worldwide. Headspace, Calm are the ones that I know best. In your opinion, is there a place for these apps versus, I noticed that you, for example, offer a monthly subscription to do meditation. What are your thoughts on those?
I think it's a great tool for people who want to embrace it in the day to day and to put the app and someone will facilitate the meditation for them. I think that's great. I really think each and every one need to find what works for him. This is what I believe in. Because if it won't work for you, you won't implement it in the day to day. So if I need someone to notify me that it's about time to practice my meditation and also facilitate it, that's great. If I need more people practicing with me because it's easier for me to practice with the group, that's also great. So I don't have one thing that I'm pitching to. I pitch to listen to yourself and to find what works for you. But find the routine that will enable you to take it to the day to day.
Yes, no tool works if you don't use it.
Yeah.
In what you've seen in 20 years, if you could summarize how mindfulness creates better leaders, how would you say?
I think mindfulness enables us to really connect. First of all, really listen. Okay? Listen to what's needed right now and not walk out of my ego. I can show up more vulnerable and really listen to what's needed and to show up as a human being. And from this place, I can do everything and to achieve better results because I will really listen to what's needed. If I need to pivot right now or to change my thoughts, I won't feel insecure to do it because I will have my anchor, right? I will have my presence and I will know my worth. And I can be in a meeting and really listen to my colleagues or my employees saying, look, we think we're not on the right track. This is why we see the things, and I will be able to listen to what they're saying and not be defensive and be an attachment to my initial way of doing things. It creates more openness and embrace beginners' minds and really enable to react to what's needed right now and not live in our stories that we are telling ourselves, right?
Yes.
And then we can create better things, better connect with our employees, colleagues, kids, community, create better products and services and bring our added value to the world.
I maybe this is a stereotype, but I do think of some, I don't want to say they're all male because they probably aren't, but I think of some executives who I wonder if do you go in and try to do mindfulness training and they just like, it just doesn't work for some people?
Look, this is an important part of my practice. When I come to organizations, usually we start with the talk, exposure talk, and then I show them from the academia, from research, the impact of mindfulness, how it increases our well-being, our happiness, and create neuroplasticity, okay, agility mindset. And I show them the practice and the data behind it. Afterwards, we are practicing 1 or 2 meditations and conclude with the benefits. So this is an exposure talk, and people can connect or disconnect. And that's okay, because I don't expect them to go inwards to the practice. After having this talk, we invite people to attend to the course, but it's an invitation. It's important for me. I don't take project to enforce people to do mindfulness because I don't believe in it. You know, it's the opposite way. Mindfulness is a free choice, right? It's creating this free choice. So, you know, there are people that more social agent that are really ready to embrace these tools in the organizations. Some of them are less connected, and that's okay. I always say it's okay. For me, bring mindfulness to the corporate world, it's like throwing a stone to the river and creating ripples. And this what create the effect and the change. Because, you know, I work with a corporate company. We started with the lecture, and then we opened the first mindfulness-based leadership course. And after this, people went through a transformation. And people felt, their colleague felt something different, and they also want to attend this course. So we opened another course and another course. So this is how I see it. And it's okay that not everybody embraced it at the same level. I respect it, but I invite people. So I think this is the importance, bringing mindfulness to the business world. It's inviting people to this arena and not forcing it on them.
That makes sense. But as someone at the top, like if it's the executive, right, who's just like, not for me, yep, you can do it with everyone else, is it going to be successful?
Yes, you know what? I think actually I'm working now with a few companies. We're starting from the managers of the company, not with the CEO and not with the much senior managers. And that works because it resonates within the company. It's starting to create new language in the company. And it's amazing. It's changed the company. You know, there was a company, another company, I gave a talk, and then we started with a course, and it really changed people. It was such transformative experience, and they're still talking, and other colleagues wanted also to come to the course. And then they went to the CEO and told them, look, it changed our life, this course. It's an amazing. And people say, oh, we also want to attend to this course. And they opened another course, and then I was invited to work with the senior management team, but we didn't start with them. So it can work from the bottom up also.
Interesting. I would think so. I would think that would make a lot of sense. As we wrap up, I just have a few more questions. One is, I know that in the US and probably worldwide, a lot of women on my podcast who are involved in organizational psychology are involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Wondered is, how does mindfulness and how do you work within the realm of other initiatives like that?
So, you know, as I said before, mindfulness actually enables us to be open-minded and to respect other people and other viewpoints. So this is actually the tools I give them, the transformative experience that they're going through. And then they are really much more open to listen to other people and to not be attached to their assumptions or to their viewpoints. So it's actually enabling the leaders who are going through my courses and retreats to go through this transformative experience and to create this space for themselves and for others, right?
So if I'm hearing you right, it's like it's foundational and then other things can be built onto that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what are the metrics that you use to define success within an organization when you work with them?
That people after the course give a feedback that it really changed their lives, that you see different in their behavior, that you see different between the team members, much more cooperation, getting things done. So you see the impact on the ROI because they communicate in a better way. They have difficult conversation. They dare to show up in this area. They dare to show up in the uncertainty and to embrace it and to be vulnerable there. So you see the impact.
And presumably at this point, much of your clientele must be referral, right? So that also really speaks to how
Yes.
it works, right?
Yes, it's like it's done to send it to the river and it creates resonance. Yes, this is actually what's happening. They give my name. It's from word of mouth, actually. That's right. So this is the most best feedback that I can get.
Yes, absolutely. Where can our listeners learn more about you, your business? And I also just wanted to ask if you had additional recommendations for mindfulness for women in terms of resources, books, whatever you'd like to throw.
First of all, I have my book that I launched this year. So if I can show it, it's the Mindfully Wise Leadership book, The Secret of Today's Leader. So it's a really practical book that shows how to implement every chapter, give tools what to do in the day-to-day, how to implement it, and show case studies from different global organizations like LinkedIn, SAP, Etna, etc. If they want to find me on my company is on wisdomtolead.co. I also have a podcast that they can listen to the podcast, Mind Your Leadership, talking about how to implement mindfulness in the corporate world and in the day-to-day.
Excellent.
I also can show, I'm also on LinkedIn, as you said, Keren Tsuk, TSUK, and other resources. As you said, there's a lot of apps if women want to start practicing and getting to know this meditation aspect. There's also the Mindful Walk, Mindful Life network that they can join and be part of this like-minded people.
Yes, that's a great idea. I love that. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing everything, including your journey and how you've gotten to where you are and how you are creating a more mindful place.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
You've been listening to SheVentures. Like what you heard? You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a show.